It's live. Let me see if that works. Tell me that works. Let me know if the volume on there works too when the video looks okay. Okay, I'll start. Yeah, it's already on. الحمد لله وكفى والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والله جعل لكم من بيوتكم سكنا وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كلكم راء وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Alhamdulillah, it's a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He protected our health in the last year and a half in this global pandemic. And it is truly His blessing that we're able to sit here or online, despite all the death and suffering that happened and is still happening in different parts of the world, and not have to worry about what the next minute or the next day looks like for us and our families. And the pandemic came with a lot of challenges. This last year and a half was very, very challenging for the entire world. It changed how we approach things at a global level, whether it was realizing our deficiencies at the lack of being able to tackle a global health crisis, whether it was the supply chain issues that we dealt with, the economic recession. And this virus has such a trickle-down effect that not only affected the world, but it also came down and affected each one of our homes. It not only showed us and the world that we're not ready to deal with such a global issue, but on a more microscopic level, also revealed problems within our own household as we're locked up for over a year in our homes with our parents, our spouses, and our children. And if the virus was not ravaging our household with illness, suffering, and death, being at home locked up with our family was testing our relationships. And for those who escaped the virus, the stress and the tension at home sometimes made us wonder whether being sick was worse with the virus or being at home with our families. Now, in this world, before a product hits the market or the shelf, it undergoes different levels of testing and challenges to see what the deficiencies are and how to improve them or fix them before the product's officially released. And sometimes not all of these problems or defects come out in that phase, and when they're out on the market, they realize there's issues with it and they recall them, either to fix them or to discard them. For example, if you look at a car, before a car is released to the market, every year that it comes out, there's so many different tests that happen. They have to test the electronic system, the tires, they have to check the engine performance, the gas mileage, crash testing. And after these battery of tests, it shows what defects there are. And then the manufacturer goes back to the drawing board and fix up whatever they need to fix up because they don't want to put a product out there that is deficient. Now, in the same way, this pandemic put certain challenges on each and every one of us, whether we were grandparents, whether we were parents, whether we were spouses, whether we were children. And this stress has showed our true characters and showed what kind of people we truly were and how much we could withstand these different tests because our borders were brought in. We no longer had this space of wherever we wanted to go, but everything became compact. Those of us that could escape and go to our office every single day, away from our wife, away from our children, no longer had that luxury because a room in the house became our office. And we couldn't get away from the racket of our children. We couldn't get away from the smell of the masala from the kitchen or the constant noise of electronics devices playing Netflix, YouTube, Disney, whatever it was. And the same people that complained that their husbands were never home now wish that their husband would please go back to work and not be home, right? The same kids that didn't want to go to school or quote unquote hated school and would give their parents a hard time waking up in the morning and getting ready for school. Now, after a few months of being virtual, all of a sudden they realize, you know what, I actually like school. I want to go back to school. I miss my teachers and I miss my classmates. So at all different levels, relationships were tested, and everyone realized where their strengths were and where their weaknesses were. And as human beings, we know that none of us are perfect. And there were a lot of weaknesses to be found, especially with others. We, mashallah, were fine, but we found a lot of weaknesses in other people, whether it was our wife, whether it's our husband, whether it's our children. We found a lot of weaknesses. And a lot of relationships, unfortunately, through this pandemic, because of this test, the stress test, the stress that was on them, they showed cracks, and some even broke and had to be patched up quickly or even temporarily. Because why? Because we really couldn't go anywhere. Usually if there's some sort of conflict at home, whether it's a child getting upset with the parent, the parent getting upset with the child, people can leave the house and go somewhere, whether they want to go to, their friend's house, whether they want to go to the mall. People take a vacation sometimes as a band-aid for what's going on, because they go somewhere else and they have a different task and they all work together towards that task. We couldn't run to our parents, and we had to, quote unquote, deal with it. Now, as we emerge from this post-pandemic world where we're meeting other people and we're talking to one another, and we're realizing as we share our stories that it's not just us, or it's not just one other person that had to deal with these situations, but it was a lot of people that have similar experiences, and that we struggled in our own home. This home that sometimes we fought so much for. We, took second mortgages, we worked second jobs to try to get a home of our own so that we can be happy inside. And so now we realize that in order to preserve these relationships that were tested, we need to do some work. And we have to go back to the drawing board and find out what caused those cracks in our relationship, whether it's with our parents, whether it was with our husband, whether it was with our wife, whether with our children. Because why? Because some of us failed the stress test of being locked up in a home with our families. And there's so many different components of why this may have happened. And sometimes when you think about it, it becomes very overwhelming. Like, I want to have a happy home. I want my home to be a place where everyone is happy and having a good time. And this pandemic maybe showed an ugly side of it. But where do I even start? Should I work on my husband? Should I work on my wife? Should I fix my children? Should I work on my parents? Or is it all me? Right? Before the pandemic, we were so busy with our daily lives. And the only time we had was when we got together at the end of the day, maybe to have dinner together. Right? We were able to hold it together and just have that meal or spend time with them. And then we go off to our bed and do our own thing again. Right? And our households functioned, right? Because we still had our own space. But when we're locked up and we saw each other 24/7, we started to realize how different we were, and that we had to somehow figure out how to harmoniously live together. Because why? Number one, we had no choice, right? We couldn't go to our friend's house. We couldn't go to the mall. We couldn't run to our parents' house. We couldn't even go to the masjid for the men that used to go to the masjid to kind of get away from all this and make our prayer an excuse. Oh, I have to go pray salah at the masjid. And number two, because we want to have some semblance of a happy home, right? And we did the things we needed to do to sort of survive this pandemic. And sometimes when everyone is so different but stuck together in the same house, they have to figure out how to make things work, because there's a lot of relationships at play here. One way to understand how to approach these is through this concept what we call a smart home, right? What's a smart home? There's a lot of different ways you can explain what a smart home is. And at least for me, when I think of a smart home, what comes to mind is that there's so many different devices or gadgets that work in a home, and they do individual things, like a doorbell. You may have a Ring, which has a separate app, and then you have a thermostat, which is a Google Nest, and then you have a garage door, which could be Chamberlain, right? Or lights, or appliances, things that don't seem to have any sort of connection to each other, but somehow through an app, they're all connected together and they work seamlessly. When you open up an app, I can close my garage, open my garage, I can turn on the light here, I can, check the thermostat and make sure that the house is at optimal temperature. And that's what they call a smart home, when everything effectively and seamlessly works together to make the house efficient, right? And this allows what? A sense of control to the owner, because they know where everything is, they know where things, how they're supposed to work. And it also is cost effective. Now, when each one of these components works properly and efficiently, the home runs well. And when one component acts up, let's say thermostat isn't working. I mean, for people that I'm a technology person, that's why this whole topic of a smart home was very easy for me, because I can make sense of different aspects of how things to work together. And when something doesn't work right, like a thermostat's not working, it drives, at least me, it drives me crazy. I have to figure out why it's not working. I need to have everything working seamlessly. And a lot of people, I think, in this world of technology can relate to that, where you want everything to be seamlessly working together. So when one thing acts up, it causes disruption and problems for the entire home. If the thermostat doesn't work properly, the heating is off or the cooling is off, and everyone in the house sort of suffers, right? Similarly, when we move into a house, whether we buy a house or we rent a house or an apartment, it stays a house until we as a family, we work together and make it a home, right? There's two different things. One is a house, which is a physical structure. Right, it's a physical structure of the wood and the plumbing and the AC and the ducts and the toilet and whatever that is, right? And there's a home. A home is when a family is there together and they make it a place of happiness, of peace and joy, right? And then a smart home is a home that is able to connect all these different pieces that live together into a seamless, efficient, harmonious type of life, right? And it's difficult because there's so many different personalities that are at play here. You have a husband, you have a wife, you have a mother, you have a father, you have a son, you have a daughter, sometimes you have in-laws living there. And we have to figure out how to manage these relationships and how to make it a place where at the end of the day, a long day, we want to come home and feel safe there, right? A place where we look forward to coming home from school when we had a hard day. Maybe we had we did really bad on an exam and we just want to get home. Right? Whether we didn't turn our homework in or we had a different situation with the teacher where we just want to go to our own home, a safe place. Whether we have chaos in the workplace or whatever happened, a home for a lot of people is a place where they come and they have peace. That's why the ayah that I recited at the beginning, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Wallahu ja'ala lakum min buyutikum sakana. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made for you from your homes a place of sakana. What is sakana? Right, sakana is translated to many different ways, and a few of the translations it comes from sakina, basically a peace, a place of peace, a place of tranquility, a place of safety, a place of rest. Right? This is what makes a house, a physical structure, a home. And this pandemic was the stress test of our homes. And some of us were able to embrace this challenge and take our relationships to a different level. But the vast majority of us, we struggled. We struggled with different conflicts, whether it was a wife annoyed with the husband's demands, and especially now that they're home 24/7, or whether it was a husband, finally seeing what happens at home and unable to understand these inefficient routines that they have at home. And we're all there now, oh, let me see how this works better. Let me see how we can make our day run smoother, right? Or whether it was a parent nitpicking at their kids, right? Because they don't know how to deal with this ball of energy now all of a sudden is locked up at home and going, nuts trying to do virtual learning or lack thereof, right? And whether it's children trying to test the limits because they had nothing better to do. And inshallah, this lecture series that we wanted to talk about was how to navigate these different relationships and how to make our homes a place of love and peace. And not be the battleground that we come home and try to show our might and show that we're victorious on this battlefield, right? Because we all realized in the past year that our home has so much value to it because we were locked up. And a lot of people spent a lot of time. If you look at what people did in the pandemic, a lot of people remodeled their home because they realized now we're stuck at home. I want to make my home look like a place where I want to be. So people upgraded their kitchen, their bathroom, their backyard, whatever it was. Now people understand the value of a home. Right? But a home is not a home until everyone in the family is able to work together and work seamlessly. And if we can't keep our homes optimally running with love, with tranquility and happiness, because viruses can come and go, but our homes, as they say, are forever, inshallah. And our homes are key to survival. And each and every one of us, whether we're a husband, whether we're a wife, whether we're a son or a daughter or father or mother, we each have a role to play. And this role, we have to find what our role is to preserve this home. Because if we preserve our home, our deen will be preserved. If you look outside, we have no control when you go outside. When we go to work, we have no control of the environment there. Even if we're the boss of a workplace, even if we're CEOs, there's not full control that we have. We can't control what people say. We can't control what people do. We can't control how people dress, right? When we go on the street, we have no control over the billboards or how what people are doing, whether they cut you off, whether they swear at you, right? When we go to school, we have no control over how someone is going to react to us, what they're going to say to us, how the teacher is going to treat us. But we do have control of our homes. And if we lose control of our home, then our life becomes very, very challenging, because now we've lost a place of peace and tranquility. For us, coming home doesn't mean anything, right? When people come home from a long day of work, what do we say? You know what? I had a horrible day. But when I walk in and when I see my children smiling at me, when they come and give me a hug, everything melts away, right? That's what a home is, right? Not that as soon as we walk in, either we're so pissed off at everyone or pissed off at whatever happened at work, and now we're taking that anger out on our home, on our family, our children. As soon as we walk home, kids run away from us. They don't, oh no, Baba's home. I don't want to be anywhere near him. They go to their rooms. Or as soon as we walk in, our families are yelling at us to do something, right? It's both ways. And that's something that we want to talk about and discuss, how to make our homes a place of peace and security and make it so optimal that we're happy to go home. And that's what the purpose of this lecture series is. Because a smart home works together. And if something doesn't work, we have to figure out what it is, right? The difference between a smart, quote unquote, smart home that we have at home with the appliances is that you can replace appliances. If the thermostat isn't working, it's fine. I'll try to fix it. If I can't fix it, I can replace it. If the oven isn't working, I can replace it. If the garage door opener is not working, I can replace it. But family will always be family. And if you don't come together, the chaos that's in the dunya will find a way into our own home, and our house will become not a place of peace and security, but a place almost like Jahannam. Right? And that's what we don't want. We want a place of peace and sakina, because that's what Jannah is. Jannah is a place of peace and sakina, and that's what we want to make our homes. Now, I'm not sitting up here saying that I've mastered this art of having a smart home. The only thing I know is how my app controls different things. And, the reason why we picked this sort of topic is because, number one, I'm very techie. I can understand the concept if you divide it like this. Right? Number two is that I'm actually learning a lot myself. And maybe this is why my family pushed me to do this topic, because, sometimes when you're forced to do a topic, you learn a lot about yourself and a lot of things to fix. And I've already made some, pointers about, all right, I got to take care of this issue in my own life, right? So the way we approach this topic is not that, all right, now I'm going to hear this talk. I'm going to go tell my wife how she should be. I'm going to go tell my son how they should behave. I'm going to go tell my parents how they should act. Our attitude should be that we're doing this for the sake of Allah, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that our home should be a place of sakina, of peace and tranquility. And if I don't have that, then I need to be the first one to figure out what to do. Right? When an app goes wrong, when something in our house goes wrong, we don't go and yell at the thermostat saying, why are you not working? We don't go and tell the garage door, start hitting the garage door and say, why aren't you working properly on my app? No, we troubleshoot. We figure out, okay, what is going on? Is it my phone that's messed up that I need to figure out what to do? Is there a connection problem? And these are topics we'll talk about, how, this connection, this communication part of it. There's so many different aspects of the smart home that, inshallah, over the course of the next few weeks, we'll try to tackle each one of them, and the relationships that are there, the husband and wife relationship, the mother and daughter, the father and son, the in-laws relationship. All these relationships are small pieces of what makes a house a home. And it's our, inshallah, our goal that we go through each one of these topics and, inshallah, try to take benefit from it. And what I really highly advise is that, I know we lived in this world of, virtual for the last year, but I can't tell you the benefit of coming to the masjid and listening to these talks. It's very easy to be at our home, be on a couch and have YouTube pulled up and watch this. Oh, you know what? It's recorded. I can watch it later on. But the barakah of a masjid can never be replaced. Right. So my advice is that people that want to listen to this lecture series, and if you have time, every Monday after Maghrib, inshallah, we'll have it. And we're not making it, it's not going to be an hour-long bayan. I'm done. It's going to be 15 minutes, because I think we've also lost the stamina of listening to long lectures. We can't sit through 1 hour-long bayans anymore. And frankly, I can't give 1 hour-long talks. So we want to try to make this short, quick burst, something that we can implement, something we can take home and apply and work on it for the next week. And inshallah, when we come back next week, we talk about a different topic and how we can apply that to our life. And again, our life is an ongoing stress test. We get stressed, we figure out, okay, I'm not doing good in this. I got home, I was very angry, I yelled at someone. You know what? I feel like I got to go back and work on myself. Right? That's the attitude we should have. And inshallah, we hope and pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to come together as a family and make our houses into homes. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be protected from this virus of COVID-19, but also the bigger virus that's roaming outside, which is shaitan, who is bent on destroying our homes. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put love and peace in our homes, such that it becomes a fortress that we can retreat to every night and escape from the world and protect ourselves and our families. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.